Testing, 1, 2, 3. Why is it still calling? Testing, hello? Hello? Victor?
It's me, yes.
Hey, Victor, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
Give me 1 second here. I'm getting a call from Ernesto. Hey, Ernesto.
Hey, Sam, how are you?
Good, good.
I don't think that I'm being allowed yet to get in, right?
Let me see. Here you are. I'm about to admit you right now.
Okay.
And we have Victor Alonso already here and a few guests signing in. But I'm going to wait for the speakers to come in first. How have you been, Victor?
I've been very busy.
I bet. I bet.
This working at home is just as time consuming. The thing is, you don't get to go home.
Exactly. That's the thing they didn't tell you. Is
You're at
you don't
work.
get to go. And work never stops.
It doesn't stop.
Because you're around, and people can find you now, even virtually.
You're on call.
Always working. Hey,
You're on
Ernesto.
call 24/7.
Good, good.
How you doing?
Victor, you remember Ernesto? Ernesto, I know you remember Victor.
Sure.
Yep, yep. We have a few more folks checking in. Let me just check in on the names because I just want to make sure I get all the speakers and presenters in first and board members. Oh, getting something from Nancy Jackson. All right.
So aside from Mr. Alonso, who else are going to be our guests?
We have Raquel, who's going to be speaking. First, Raquel Regalado. And then we also have two folks from the City of Miami's Real Estate Management Department who are going to be here for the Southside Park conversation to talk about the negotiations. Let me see who's here. And then Commissioner Higgins will be in on the call for parts of it, or most of it, where she can be because of sunshine laws. And two representatives from Commissioner Russell's office, James and Daniel, are going to be here. Let's see who I got here.
We don't need to do anything to register.
No,
At this
you should
point,
have. Yeah, no, you should be.
Yeah, you'll have control of when we're able to speak.
Exactly. And I'll be able to mute and
You'll mute us, and then when you want us in, you'll open
exactly,
up,
exactly.
and we can see everything that's going on in here, but we can't speak until you unlock it.
Exactly. All right, here I have Nancy. I've got a few people coming in now. Jay Solowski. Commissioner Higgins. Hello. All right. How are you, Commissioner Higgins?
Hi, how are you? How's
Good.
everybody?
Hello.
Doing well.
On a more stable surface than my lap.
Hey,
Yeah,
Jay.
like
How are
being
you, Jay?
So you don't get seasick.
Yeah. All right. We have a few more people checking in, and then then I'll let the other guests come in.
Yeah.
I think Commissioner Higgins, you know Victor Alonso from
Uh-huh.
school district.
So who
Yeah.
are you?
Good.
Hey,
How are
Nancy.
you?
See you.
I
Here's
just
Raquel. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
So I just want to let you know, I think Nancy's already talked to you. Two of the items on your agenda come up under the Jennings Rule for me, including the new school that's going to be under construction, as well as that other giant building, fire station. And so before you get started, if I just could take 2 minutes to explain what Jennings is, how the county interprets it really strictly, unlike the city. And so it's why I won't be able to participate in the conversation, but I think people will understand that in the end, it's better for the public that the Jennings Rule is in place, because it's designed, what it was designed for is to protect private meetings from developers with commissioners. And so that you would have to everything about a development as it goes into zoning, because we're getting very close to these possibly being submitted to the county. So the attorneys have told me I just can't witness back and forth unless it is in a quasi-judicial manner at a zoning hearing. So then people will know that I'm not ignoring them. I just am forbidden by law to be part of it. So, and then I'll hop off, and when you're done, you can text me and I'll hop back on.
You got it.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Not a problem. All right, we're about a minute away. I just want to make sure I have. Hey, how are you, Raquel? I'm not. There you go. Perfect. All right. Ernesto, did you get that email with the updated agenda from me?
The last one that I got,
Yeah.
I guess I did.
Okay, and I'm going to pass it to you right away when we get started, and then we'll get started with the rest of the presentation right after you're done. All right, looks like it's 6 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and admit the rest of our guests. It looks like we have, just so you guys know, we have 56 registrants for tonight as of the last count I saw an hour ago. Right now, we've got about 20 people in the queue. So we're expecting a pretty full house tonight. I think it's going to be a great meeting. Thank you very much for your time and for being with us and for sharing information with BHA and the Brickell and Urban Core residents. So let's get to it. Good evening. I think I admitted everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening, all. Good evening, all. My name's Sam Joseph. I'm with the Director of Advocacy for.
For what?
I'm the Director of Advocacy. I'm sorry. I'm looking away, trying to deal with the controls and deal with you at the same time. My name's Sam Joseph. I'm the Director of Advocacy for Brickell Homeowners Association. We're so glad to have you here this evening for our membership meeting and this special membership meeting that's about education in schools. We're very excited about this evening. I just want to click on, I'm going to turn my video off and share a screen with you, and then we can get started. We want to thank you for taking the time out today to be with us for this meeting on education and schools advocacy. We're very excited to host our own, for the first time, virtual membership meeting. So please bear with us if we run into any technical issues or problems. It's because we're brand new at this and learning for the first time. But we are very excited about tonight's meeting. I want to thank, first of all, our hosts tonight, Christie House. You probably saw my name is appearing as Christie House. They generously hosted us on their Zoom account, and we're very excited about being able to have access to the Brickell and Urban Core community. Tonight, just to give you a brief overview of what the agenda is, we'll start off in just a few minutes with the President's welcome from our President Ernesto Cuesta. We do have a short little video from our host, Christie House, that we're going to be showing, which is very critical at this time, actually. We'll talk a little, and then we move into our keynote speaker, Ms. Raquel Regalado, who's going to talk to us about dealing with the pandemic and then getting back into schools and how do we get ready for that. We'll talk a little bit about our Brickell school projects. As you know, we've got quite a few of them going on. And so we'll get into all of those. We'll have a little update on the census. I hope everybody was able to do their census. And then we'll talk about the annual Urban Core Planning Forum, our Education Forum, and a new organization, and give you some news and notes, and then we're done. So it should be a very, very fun evening. So I'm going to turn over the stage to our president, Ernesto Cuesta, for the welcome.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for participating in this virtual, not normal meeting as we usually have our meetings. Thank you so much, especially when we will be talking about education. As you are very well know that we have been advocating for education in our community for many, many years. So matter of fact, our community have been deprived for the last 33 years of having schools up to 12th grade in our community. We have been forgotten by the district, unfortunately. Even though we're still waiting for the expansion of Southside Elementary. I think for the last 3 years we have been promised that to happen. That has not taken place yet. For more than 30 years, our parents and children have been forced to move many miles away from Brickell, and also to send their kids many miles away from our community because we don't have no schools. The reason why in 2010 the BHA supported the work and welcoming the charter schools in an area, since the district had not really allocated spaces and plans for our children. Having said that, when Sam and I, we started planning our meeting, especially to talk about education, it came to my mind that we needed to invite someone very special to the Brickell community and to our community as a whole, Ms. Raquel Regalado. Ms. Raquel Regalado, not only as a school board member, she was a great advocate for the kids in our area, even though she was not the school board member assigned to this area. She was very instrumental in the expansion of Mass Academy. And also she has been actually attending all the BHA's meetings through all these years. I do understand that she is a candidate for Miami-Dade County Commissioner on District 7th. And honestly, even though people continue saying that everything is not politics, everything is politics in the city of Miami. The concept of politics in the city of Miami is either you are a guest or you are part of the menu. So you pick and choose. So it's a great pleasure to have tonight with us Raquel Regalado, and I hope, Raquel, that you are one way or the other, rewarded for the work that you have done in our country in the next elections. Thank you so much. Sam, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Ernesto. I appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and, as I said, I want to make sure that we talk a little bit about our host, Christie House. And I'm sure all of you have probably know about Christie House and the work that they do. Christie House is our county's child advocacy center, and they work with anything that has to do with the harm or the endangerment of children. And they're really a fantastic organization. And again, we thank them for hosting us. I did want you to see a quick little video about Christie House, because I know at this time of the pandemic, we think to ourselves, well, folks are in their homes and hopefully our children are safe with their families. But unfortunately, these are the times that can be the most difficult for our children who are in harm's way, because they don't have a way out because of stay-home orders. And they're not at school, where 60% of these incidents are reported by teachers and school personnel. So without further ado,
The statistics are daunting. They are scary, but they're real. These are not opinions, these are facts.
It's an uncomfortable conversation to have with people. They don't want to think that it's happening. I think with sex trafficking, we want to believe that it's not really going on here in our backyard.
I always say that sexual abuse is like mental illness. Nobody wants to talk about it.
If I could teach parents how not to be in denial, and if I could teach children how not to be naive, you got a fighting chance. And Christie House does that.
Education, education, education. We need to be out in the schools talking to our children about these issues, talking to our parents about these issues. That's the only way we're going to open up the conversation.
So without having this discussion, without educating, we are forcing our children to have to carry this trauma like a really heavy suitcase on their back.
One of the strongest partnerships we have with a community entity that understands the work, lives the work, quite frankly, serves as a refuge to the victims of, but also understands the prevention aspect of this work. Christie House is it.
Christie House and the whole dynamic of that building, the setting, the people, their mission, it's all designed for the child. And so that is first and foremost, is to make sure that tiny little child has some chance at recovery.
I think that when it comes to child sex abuse, there is really no better expert in the industry than Christie House as far as managing all of the different services that the children need. I think when it comes to sex trafficking, Christie House was a pioneer.
What we do here is very impactful. It's very important. There's purpose, there's meaning behind it, and it's not for granted.
Shame on us if, because this is uncomfortable, inconvenient, scary, we don't do our due diligence and our moral duty. And to me, this is a moral duty that we are bound to actually live up to if we care about our kids.
The core mission of Christie House is to find an end to child abuse, child sex abuse, and child sex trafficking. These are epidemics in our community, and we need to end them.
excellent. On that note, I can't think of a better champion for children and a better person for us to have here to talk to us about education issues and how to protect our children and keep them safe. Um, Raquel Regalado has been a long time partner, advocate of the people and BHA. She's worked with BHA on a number of issues, even when it wasn't her school, to see that the Brickell community and the urban core got their due. So we're excited to have her here. And so I'm going to pass the floor over to Raquel. It's yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your kind words, Ernesto and Sam. It's a pleasure. Like you said, it's been many years, many issues, and now we're going to recap some of them because after and during this pandemic, many of the things that we've been talking about for years are now more important than ever. So let's give it a little bit of background. Those of you that will recall, I was a school board member that represented some of the residents, but I didn't have the schools. In other parts of my district, like in Coral Gables, and Sam and I worked on that, we eliminated controlled choice. In other areas, like Ernesto mentioned, in Key Biscayne, we expanded Mass Academy to ensure that there were neighborhood seats. I was on the school board for 6 years, and I was a fierce advocate of neighborhood schools. And we've talked about this many times, and I think we got to start there because now more than ever, we see the value in neighborhood schools, right? When Sam and Ernesto and I first talked about this, we talked about the very basics, which is when you move to a place, the first question that you ask as a parent are, what are my neighborhood schools? And unfortunately, in a lot of areas prior to changing Coral Gables and Controlled Choice or Key Biscayne, the answers were not answers that parents were happy with. And unfortunately, right now in Brickell, we still don't have an answer that qualifies. We have magnet schools. Now we're going to be talking about the charter schools. And we went to the DDA. We tried to get them to understand that this was important, that it was a priority, that parents need to have proximity to schools, that schools build communities, you know, and that it's so important for a child to have a community and a parent that can go to that school, that can participate in everything from a bake sale to dropping off a mask, which is what we got to talk about today. Mm-hmm. And the inability to get to your child's school for many of us is debilitating. As you guys know, I'm the parent of 2 autistic children. And if I can't get there, you know, my kids can't go there. That's the reality of it because we need to be able to get there at a moment's notice. So let's talk about sort of where we're at right now. I wanted to give you guys some good news. So those of you that are parents, you've been getting emails from the school district telling you to participate in this pandemic survey where the district wants to know if you feel comfortable sending your kids to school. The good news is you have until May 27th to participate in this survey. I've been reaching out to parents and sending them the CDC information. I'm going to be posting it after this. All the documents I'm going to talk about now, I'm going to post on Facebook and on Twitter so you can all read them. I would recommend that you read the documents that I'm going to talk about and then go on the website. You've got to access it through the portal and give them your 2 cents about what you think. Because I think that part of the problem here is that the district's asking for parent input without giving us information. I can't give you, or no one can give you an idea of what I would feel comfortable with until you give me options, right? So that's number one. We have until the 27th to read these documents and fill out that survey. So now we back up. What's happened in education? So much has happened. So the first thing that everyone listening needs to know is the statement that was made by the governor on March 17, 2020, okay? That was the day that he decided that everyone was staying home. And there was a press conference that, for those of you that are interested, I can post the video so that you can see it, where he details this plan. The first step was suspending exams. So all of you that are teaching kids at home, you know that we didn't have exams with the exception of AP exams. AP exams were administered online. They were a disaster. And there's actually a litigation out of Tampa that's challenging those AP exams because there were a lot of students that didn't have access to the platform. But The governor also said that as parents, if you were not satisfied with this virtual learning, that you could hold your child back. And the district hasn't really talked about that. And I think that that's important that everybody know. I'm not saying that you should hold your child back, but you should consider, depending on the year that your child is in, if they've learned the necessary information to go forward to the next school year. So important years like 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade, right? Years that you're looking at algebra, where you're looking at foundational math and science. If you feel that this virtual learning experiment, because it is an experiment, did not give your child the foundation, as a parent, you no longer need the district to agree with you. Even if they completed all the work, you can call this year a wash based on the governor's statement on that March 17th conference. So that's number one. Now, that being said, the district a few weeks ago did say that they're going to help us catch up. So there is going to be a 2-week virtual period before classes start. It's going to be virtual. Parents are going to have to sit down and do the work again, but this is going to be a grade-specific tutorial that's going to help recap everything for what we now are calling the COVID slide. So we have the summer slide where we forget things, and now we have the COVID slide where we didn't learn things. And the idea is the 2 weeks before school starts, we're going to catch up on both summer and COVID slide. So it's going to be accessible to all children with disabilities, to children who did not finish well in math and science. Please, if you want your child to participate, this is the moment before school ends to email your principal and to tell them that you want to be signed up for that. So I would highly recommend that for parents. I think it's a great opportunity. Of course, you have to have the ability to sit down and do this with your child, and we'll get to that, because that takes us to reopening. So that was the next big step in Tallahassee. We had all these task force about reopening. The governor put together a group that worked in rapid speed. For those of us like Eileen, who I know was also listening to all those calls, you know, it was impossible to keep up with all the meetings and all the information. Oh my God. We'll put the links up too if you want to listen to that. It is literally the cure for insomnia. But a lot of information that will explain a lot of the things that you're hearing about now. We're talking about reopening, right? So this was the first committee. After the governor's report, really in that part, there was a little bit on education, a lot of talk about universities, but not a lot of information on what was going to happen with schools, K-12, and really nothing on what was going to happen to daycare. Daycare is a huge issue right now. Eileen's going to be dealing with it with pre-K that the county runs, because everything that we know about COVID is absolutely the opposite of what we teach about daycare. Everything that we teach them, from hugging to loving to squeezing to kissing. And then who teaches them at pre-K? Well, older people, generally older women, right, with young children. So it's a very concerning thing, and the Children's Trust and the state is working on those child care guidelines. But back to K-12. After the governor's report, there was a meeting by the School Board Association. I'm going to be posting their recommendations. Their recommendations are pretty concise in terms of needing guidance from the state. Number one, on funding and how they're going to pay for this new normal, right? Because all the protocols that we're going to have to establish have to come from somewhere. And then there's also a request for guidance from the state on student-teacher ratio. For those of you who know a little bit about how our system works, we have a constitutionally implemented class size rule, right? And that class size rule limits what districts can do. Now, when we're talking about social distancing in classrooms, and staggered terms is the other thing that we're talking about. Kids going to school Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the following week, Tuesday, Thursday. Those of you that work, you're saying, oh my God, how is that going to work? That's exactly why they're doing this survey, because parents lost their minds when they learned that kids might not be able to go to school every day. I can tell you that Miami-Dade County Public Schools has made staggered days work. The older the kid, the easier it is. But it was actually done in Miami High in the 70s, in the 80s, back when the school district was overcrowded. This was their way of alleviating it while they built facilities, right? So That takes us to the second group that met, which was the superintendent. They had their group. They also have recommendations. I'll be posting those. They're kind of similar to what the school board associations are recommending, but really need for guidance, funding, cleanliness, more employees, and lots of questions about common areas, classrooms, and outdoor. Outdoor is important for us as we talk about the Brickell schools because it's non-existent in these schools. So it's a serious concern and a need to have a conversation about municipalities and green space and access. Now, where does that leave us? Then the CDC a few days ago came out with their recommendations. This is a must read for every parent, every grandparent. This is really where the rubber meets the road. The CDC establishes certain guidelines. They're only recommendations, but these recommendations now become the foundation of everything that we're going to talk about when we talk about reopening schools. What you should know. Number one, the easiest part is masks for everyone. Everyone's going to be wearing masks. Employees are going to be wearing masks. Children are going to be wearing masks. In some cases, we're talking about masks and face shields, okay? So we're talking about both in certain occasions. So consider that when you go and get your back to school gear this year, adding to the Lysol and the wipes that you've already been buying, you're going to buy more Lysol, you're going to buy more wipes, you're going to buy cloth masks, and you're probably going to buy a face shield. You may also have to buy a temperature reader because this is the other thing that we're talking about, taking temperatures. How are we going to take temperatures of so many children coming in at the same time? And how are we going to ensure that the same happens for employees? That gets us into the logistics of all this. So that was just sort of a tip of the iceberg. I have more information on what the CDC protocols are. Obviously, the CDC protocols on cleaning, we can do it. The testing, we're actually doing it. The Florida Bar is actually having their exam now in Tampa, and they're going to sit everybody 6 feet apart. So it can be done. The CDC is recommending not using cafeterias, so we're looking at children eating their food in their classrooms. And we're also looking at no shared supplies. Now, this gets complicated because, as you guys already know, our teachers don't have enough supplies. Parents already provide a lot of these supplies. And now we're talking about not having children share any supplies at all. We're also talking about no field trips, no buses, limited use of common areas and constant cleaning of those common areas, and then indoor versus outdoor space. Another thing that I wanted to mention that Eileen could talk about, because she's going to be dealing with that too, is contact tracing. So contact tracing. Now we know that the state of Florida had allocated 200 individuals for Miami-Dade County. The rule pursuant to the CDC is 30 contact tracers for every 100,000 people, okay? Now, how does that impact schools? Well, we have no guidelines about children and contact tracing, just like we have almost no guidelines about children and regular COVID tracing. So the governor has now announced that CVS is going to be doing some of this testing, but throughout this pandemic, we've had a lot of issues with places that will provide testing for children. When we started the protocols, the exams were only available for people 65 and over. Then we went to 45 and over. Then we went to symptomatic, non-symptomatic. We're still at 18. So if you have a child that doesn't feel well and you think that child may have COVID, you have to go to a pediatrician to get that exam. Now you can go to some private places that are accepting children, but it's a very difficult situation and it's a very difficult test, especially for younger children. So that's one of the things that we're looking at. How do we do that? I can tell you that for the world of children with disabilities, the few children that I know with disabilities have had to have this exam, just like older people with Alzheimer's, it's been a disaster. So it's very concerning, and we're very concerned about how the contract tracing, now that we know that it's going to be 800 to 1,000 people that are going to be doing it in Miami-Dade, how is that going to impact families and children? What information is going to be given from the county to the school system, and how we're going to navigate all that. So lastly, that puts us at Brickell. One thing that I wanted to mention is nowhere in the CDC guidelines does it say that if you do not have outdoor space, you cannot reopen schools. The CDC guidelines provide general recommendations. Of course, we want kids to be able to go outside, and the universities are all talking about outside classrooms, but that doesn't mean that they can't have class. Now, one of the things that we're going to be dealing with in school facilities, as you guys know, is that we started this whole security and lockdown because of Parkland. So, you know, a few years ago, we started spending all this money to make sure that there was only one way in, one way out, that the windows didn't open, that the doors locked, that there was a place where kids could be safe, because we were talking about active shooters. Now, all the work that we've done in terms of security and active shooters are working against us when we talk about COVID and these CDC guidelines. Okay, so it's going to be very difficult to navigate the new facilities rules as they try to apply this to a COVID non-friendly school environment, which is what we want, right? We want to slow the spread. So yesterday there was a school board meeting. Louis Navarro brought an item asking for a committee. What they have right now is a task force where they're all naming people from. They originally said that they were going to give us recommendations by June. It looks like that's going to be pushed out a little bit more. Broward County has already said that they're not doing summer schools. Miami-Dade has said that they need a little bit more time. The big criticism of this process is that on the governor's team, there weren't teachers, there weren't employees at the school district, there weren't superintendents, and there really is a need to hear from the people that are going to be doing the work before you establish the protocols of what the work is. So I'm happy to take your questions. I'm going to be posting all the documents. I think that for the Brickell area, now more than ever, we need to talk about proximity, because one of the things that we're not going to be doing is we're not going to want to be putting kids on buses. We're not going to want to take them halfway across the county to a magnet school, right? The magnet program, by the way, has been extended. They're still taking applications because they still have a lot of open spots, but it doesn't solve our need for neighborhood schools. And now more than ever, I think parents would feel safer walking their child to school and knowing that that place is nearby, and that if they're missing a mask or a marker, or they need a change of shoes, you're down the street and you can help, especially in a world where many of us are working from home and have been their teachers for the last 2 months. So
Perfect.
happy to take any questions.
Didn't I tell you she'd be the best? There's nobody that knows more. No, we really appreciate it, Raquel. I don't know if any of our board members, and we have somebody, we're lucky enough today to have somebody from facilities from the school district who's dealing with some of these headaches personally every day. So I'm sure during his presentation, if you have questions also, we can ask. The one thing I'll ask, Raquel, is you did mention both of our one campus right now, Southside, does not, has very limited outdoor area. They have an atrium area. And certainly once the new middle school, to make it the complete K-8, is built, there is no plans in that. There's no plan right now to have outdoor fields for that campus. If we, and this is a hypothetical because we don't know what's going to happen with COVID, but if the district has to follow the strict guidelines, I know you say closing the school may not be an option, but both of those schools would be overcrowded. How do you deal with?
Well, that's why I mentioned that one of the options that the CDC gives, and all these reports mention, and the district has mentioned too, is staggered days, but staggered days is very chaotic for parents too. So, how it's one thing to have staggered days for maybe middle school, maybe high school, right? That's something that's difficult, but manageable. Staggered days for elementary is very, very difficult because people are going to have to determine, what day do I go into work? How do I work from school, from home? What am I going to do? And that's another interesting point that I forgot to mention. And that is that virtual learning is going to be made available to every student in Florida in case their parents do not feel comfortable with this. And there are already parents that don't feel comfortable with this. So that is going to be an option. But I think that the main thing is for people to understand that in order to meet the social distancing rules, especially at a school like Southside, you're going to end up with staggered days. I don't see any other way around it. Now, I can tell you what I did when I was at the school board in terms of our schools that we built out like Southside. So Sam will remember we did Gables Prep. When we did Gables Prep, we built it all out, but we entered into an MOU with the city of Coral Gables and use the nearby park for certain hours. That's the same thing that we did at Ada Merritt. We have to cross the street, but we did the same thing. We had a complete build out. We didn't have space, so we found the nearby park. Now, the problem with this is before COVID, you could put them on a bus, you could take them to the park, you could hope that something was nearby and you could walk over. Now you're actually putting them in more danger by putting them on a bus and taking them over somewhere. So I don't think that that's going to work as a viable option. Also, for a lot of these schools that didn't have playgrounds and didn't have green space, we built gyms. And now gyms are a problem. Right now, we can't even open gyms. So we get into these issues of that some of the solutions that we had pre-COVID are now a little bit more complicated post-COVID. But I think that in the case of Southside, it's going to be staggered days. I don't see another solution because there just isn't the space. Now, if you can find something nearby, but again, with the little kids, outdoor classes are very, very difficult. And in such a dense area, they're also dangerous from a liability point of view. You know, if you have a runner, if you have a wanderer, you know, and teachers are not going to feel safe and parents are not going to feel safe with that. So it's a very difficult situation for schools like this. So I think that parents are just going to have to figure out how best to work out staggered days until we have a vaccine or until we figure out more about how this disease spreads. I mean, some of us are a little bit hopeful. The new CDC report on surfaces gives us a little bit of hope that maybe this is a purely, respiratory thing, and it's just about wearing masks and not breathing on each other. But when it comes to children, I can tell you it's very difficult to have them keep their masks on and to make sure that they're complying with all these rules the time that they're at school, because they're at school for a very long time.
No, that makes sense. Look, and I meant to say this early on. I know our folks here have questions, and I've been getting questions on the chat. I am doing the host. Please send your questions and your comments. They're all being recorded. They may not be put out live because we've got to get through a thick agenda, but I promise you that we will address all of them after the meeting, and you'll get a reply back. So thank you very much, Raquel. We really appreciate you and your knowledge. Keep coming back. I think we're going to have you back at one of our candidates forums because I heard you're running for something. So, so Ernesto, did you have anything else?
No, I want to add something so ironically coincidental to the needs of our community, to the comments that Raquel made. The reason why, for those that they are not connected with the needs of our community, or because they are newbers in our community, they are newcomers, or because they have never had the interest in getting involved in the needs of our community, for the same reasons, in 1985, we helped to preserve Southside Park.
Yes.
Southside Park was saved from being donated by the City of Miami to a nonprofit organization. And we, the PTA of the Southside Elementary, avoided that to happen because we envisioned that that park was going to be utilized one way or the other by the children attending Southside Elementary. So thank you for bringing that to our attention because we are experiencing now an issue with Southside Park. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Raquel. If please, if you have some time and you want to hang around, there's some interesting topics. Yes. Every single one of them you know about and can comment on. We'd love to hear from you. I'm going to move on, and we're going to start with the Brickell project updates. I'm going to ask the commissioner to give us just a brief opening to this section because unfortunately she won't be able to join us for most of it. So Commissioner Higgins. Oh, sorry, let me unmute you. Sorry, my bad.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Hi, everybody. Listen, the reason I need to start off this session is because I'm going to have to leave this session. You guys are going to be talking about two development projects. They're very important to the Brickell area. And there is this law, it's called the Jennings, that I have to comply with. And what happens is, both in the news, we're getting at the point where the Southside Elementary project is going to become part of the county zoning board meeting, as well as eventually this big project that involves the firehouse and the park that Ernesto was talking about. So the county attorneys are very strict about what's called Jennings. Jennings is actually a person, and this person sued because in zoning hearings, what was happening is the developers were getting much more access to elected officials to talk about the projects than the public were. And so elected officials were getting all of this information about these projects, and then you get to the zoning hearing, and then finally the neighbors would be there. Very unfair. So as we get closer and closer on these developments to where they would come to zoning for a decision, all comments have to be made in a public forum, and many of you all are going to comment on these when it comes to zoning. But you'll have to be sworn in as witnesses, and I and all the other commissioners are going to have to listen to everything you say at the same time as I listen to everything the developer says. So I know sometimes you all are emailing me and Nancy, and you're used to the fact that we always respond, but we're prohibited from responding. It's not because we don't care about you, it's because we're trying to follow the law. But let me also be clear, when developers are contacting me on these projects, I am not responding to them either, right? So it is a process which is a little difficult and surprising, but it is designed to level the playing field between the residents and the developers. So I just thought I would remind you of my values so you could understand how I intend to make decisions that might affect zoning, whether or not it's these two projects. In our urban core, which I live in, I'm very committed to balancing quality of life with development. We can't stop all development, right? We have an economy that is very much built on making sure that construction is part of it and creating vibrant neighborhoods is part of it. But what that means for us in the urban core, especially in Brickell and downtown, is we need to be thinking about how we build neighborhoods and how we develop so that they're walkable, right? They're greener than they are now. We all know the city of Miami has no greenness, very, very limited, especially when we get into downtown and Brickell, and they need to be livable. And so in that livability equation, there are things like affordability of housing, that just cannot be way out in the boondocks. We need to have workforce housing, even in the urban core, so young professionals can have some access to affordable housing. We need to have schools, right? I can't, what Raquel was talking about, let's be very clear that until our kids can go to schools, we don't have a neighborhood, right? We have what they, some of the other commissioners call it TOD, right? Transit-oriented developments. I would love to throw that term in the garbage because they should be TONs, transit-oriented neighborhoods, right? Where yes, we can get on the Metro Mover, and yes, we can get on the train, and yes, we can get on the trolley. But right now, people have to get in their cars to drive their kids to school. And so until your kid is walking to school, we're not going to get ourselves out of cars. We're not going to save the planet. So transit schools are part of transit-oriented neighborhoods and community centers. Another thing we're missing is the gather. I know we're talking about not gathering, but I know I have faith, we're going to have a vaccine, and we will be gathering again. So I hope that just shares with you that as these items come up, those are the values I intend to address these zoning decisions with, but I will not be able to be part of the discussions, and it doesn't mean I don't love you and I don't care about you. It's the law. So I will sign off, and Sam, just text me or text Nancy, she'll text me, and I'll come back on later.
Thank you, Commissioner, and we appreciate you and appreciate your service to us.
See you in a few.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started with our first presentation today, and that will be about our Southside K through 8 expansion, and I should use the proper term, Southside Preparatory Academy K through 8, and the upper campus. And we're very fortunate to have with us today, representing Miami-Dade County Public Schools, Victor Alonso. Victor, just so you know, I do have some pictures of the renderings that I'll be showing as you speak. I guess I didn't give you a heads up beforehand, but visuals work great in this medium.
Great. Do you want to go ahead and put it up?
Sure.
Okay, I'll sort of.
I figured you want to give a little history and.
Sure. Let me first introduce myself to those of you who haven't met me before. I'm Victor Alonso. I've been with the school board for many years. I'm in charge of advanced planning and design. I've met a number of you, some of the parents I saw from the participants. There are a number of parents. We've had several meetings over the last couple of years. We've met with Nancy Jackson from Commissioner Higgins' office at the school, and we've met at the school board offices. A special hello to former school board member Raquel Regalado. We worked on a number of projects before, and we've been working on many other projects in Coral Gables and Brickell and many others that are very exciting. This project in particular is extremely exciting. To me personally, I've been working on the improvements that have been done at Southside Elementary. When it was Southside Elementary, when it was just a little, it is actually the second oldest school in the district. There's only one school that has older buildings on it, and that's Coconut Grove Elementary. It has two older schools, but the oldest building is from 1914 on the Southside campus, and we recently completed a historic renovation of that building right on Coral Way, 13th Street. We had done a major addition about 12 years ago now. And of course, that school has been a tremendous success. It's in Brickell. It's in the heart of Brickell. And as you know, there's very little land to come by. It's part of the urban core. It's part of what makes it really special, but it's not too different from New York City and the Northeast, the large urban areas that don't have a lot of open, you were talking about open play fields. I wish we had an open play field. At Southside, we have a basketball court and a large play area, but we don't have an open green area. The closest thing is Southside Park that was mentioned before. The site that you see here, the yellow rectangular piece on the west side that Sam is placing the cursor over, is 1/3 of an acre. It's 100 feet wide by 150 feet long. The property is part of this larger red outlined area that's owned by the county. There is an existing tower, the Moretti Tower, as part of public housing. It's a high rise. And there is going to be another high rise project built within the red area there very shortly by Related Urban Development Group. The yellow parcel is 1/3 of an acre, and that's where we're going to build the 6th through 8th grade center. There you see the renderings that we have, preliminary renderings. The one in the upper right is looking from the west, from I-95. As you would pass right by it, the exit off of I-95 down to 8th Street is immediately to the west, or in front of the building, as you would see it there. With something interesting about the building that you'll see is that the 2nd and 3rd floor levels, there are 10 workforce housing units. We're actually, since we've entered into an agreement with the Public Housing and Community Development, and it's the first one of its kind, and they're very excited about it in the country. where the school board is partnering with public housing for including it as part of a school on one property. So they own the property. We have a 99-year ground lease on it, and we're including 10 units that are hopefully going to be geared to teachers and other school board employees. That would be ideal to have teachers, young families in that area that could afford, hopefully they would qualify for the requirements for through HUD. So the ground floor, as you see there in those drawings, is kind of the more public area and access to the facility. The second and third floor on the west half, that's the side facing I-95, is going to be the 10 units. On the east side, on the further side, that's part of the school, the administration area, the kitchen dining area is going to be on the third level. And then the levels, the fourth, fifth, sixth levels that you see with some colored panels on the west side are all classroom spaces. And above on the roof level will be an enclosed recreational space with basketball and recreational activities. Probably will have synthetic turf. We'll have other recreational enclosed spaces up there. So we are including that as part of the project. It's over 100,000 square feet. The estimated construction cost right now is about $26 million for construction. We've been able to simplify the project and keep it actually at 100 feet in height, which is 8 levels. We originally were thinking it was going to be 9 to 14 levels, but we have managed to provide some parking at the ground level, but instead of trying to build in the parking with 5 levels of very, very, very tight ramps, that would be very, very expensive, we are negotiating with an adjacent parcel to have the parking off-site adjacent to the building. It hasn't been finalized, so I really can't get into too many details, but this is a real positive for us because it's going to provide plenty of parking. It's going to allow us to build it. Actually, that rendering was an earlier one that shows parking on the second level. We're actually reducing that, taking that out because of having the adjacent parking. So that is going to allow us to build it quicker and at a lower cost. The total project cost right now is estimated to be approximately $39 million total. The project is funded. We have hired the architects, Sjoseph Architecture. His architects were hired in February by the board. They already have submitted the preliminary drawings. They're on schedule, if anything ahead of schedule. We're going to have the drawings completed by the end of August. We have an advertisement that's going out for a construction manager at risk that is going to be hired to oversee the construction. We expect to have it out to bid sometime in the fall and be able to start construction by February. So everything is on target the way that it had been taken to the board in February. There's a board item for this. The money's there. The project is moving. I'm very involved in it. I'm in touch with the architects regularly, and things are going extremely well. We've worked with the principal from Southside. We've worked with our region office. Everything is going extremely well. So we're very excited about the project. I want to leave time in case you have any questions to answer them. So if you'd like.
That's thank you very much, Victor. Wow, thank you. We're so glad to have you back and to have much more information and actually even visuals on what this campus might look like. I know that as you mentioned, the board item with the parking with related passed last month. And so again, it makes a difference in providing for not having to add parking or take away space from instruction and other things you could be doing. So that's great. I have only one question here.
Sure.
And it's actually about, I'd like to ask about the Shenandoah Annex and timing, if it will be open in August, as well as to confirm the open date for the new construction. And that's from Rebecca Carter.
Sure. The Shenandoah project will be completed in August as planned. If anything, it's going to go ahead of schedule. One silver lining, if you could say that, given the unfortunate crisis that we're all living through, is that when it comes to construction, we're at existing school sites, not having children there, if anything, makes it easier to access the school. Of course, we're adding a one-story classroom building that's going to provide classrooms for the Southside students that are currently, the 6th grade is at Southside. We renovated a building there that had 5 classrooms so that we could contain the 6th grade there. I think there's 4 6th grade classrooms at the school, at least there were at the beginning of the school. The Shenandoah project will be finished this summer, so we will be able to take the students and house them at that building that is being completed this summer until this project is completed. And then this will open up. This is actually about 3 blocks west and 1 block north of Southside Elementary. So it's about 4 blocks away. It's 3 blocks west of the Rapid Transit Station there in Brickell. And so it is walking distance of all of that. So, and the projected completion date that we've set for this building that you're looking at now is during the school year of, let's see, 21-22. What was on the board item was May of 22, the substantial completion. We think it's going to be earlier than that. I can't say at this point how much earlier, but the fact that we reduced the height and the complexity by taking out the parking is going to greatly help the schedule. So we think that by sometime earlier in 2022, so that's less than 2 years from now, this will be complete.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm going to move on because we have another important topic. I know we'll have a couple more questions, but Victor's been accessible, very accessible, and so have all the folks at the school district and our partners over at Southside, the PTSA, and the administration. So we thank everybody, and we're very excited, Victor. We can't wait to get into our new building, and we hopefully COVID will be gone and we'll be back to regular operations and really can be excited and throw a party for our new school after 33 years. Right, Ernesto?
I cannot talk.
No, there you go.
I'm going to hold my comments. I welcome. No.
I know.
We have to be realistic. We welcome this school. Now, to say that this is the solution for the children and parents in this area, we rely on ourselves. But you know what? As my grandmother said once, you get something better than nothing. So I just leave it like that.
All right. You know how I like to leave it. Trust but verify. It has been 33 years. So we can't wait until we get in the building. I'm going to move on to our next issue with it, which is Southside Park. And by the way, Victor, I know you know all these issues very, very well also, having been with the district. If you want to stick around and comment, and I know you mentioned your comment about Southside Park and wishing you could have outdoor space, not only for the elementary, but now the new campus. and it only being 4 blocks away, actually 3 blocks, it would be amazing if that was their field. So we want to talk, I'm bringing this issue to you today because, I want to give you a little history on this issue because we've been talking about Southside Park and its use and green space in general in the urban core and the lack thereof of it. Back in 2015, I believe it was, and again, Ernesto can correct me, we were contacted by the school district to discuss a deal to get a new campus, an upper campus for Southside. And as part of the deal, it was to work, the district was going to be working with the city to help build a new fire station number 4, renovate it. And it was also going to be mixed use with private condos and development. We actually went to public meetings. We publicly supported this. On the screen, you'll see the first time we talked about it publicly was in March of 2016. We actually covered the issue at our first Urban Core Forum and put the idea out to the community. At the same time, we've always been talking to the city and the school district about how do we codify this agreement to make sure the park does become the outdoor space, part-time, sometime, anytime, for our schools. And so we did. We were very much into seeing that project happen. And unfortunately, it died a pretty horrible death at a public meeting in 2016, and we thought the issue was done from there. That the park, as our commissioner told us at one of our meetings after this, the parks, there's so little park space in the city of Miami that parks are sacrosanct, and that even the use of children, by the use of children, it would be impeding on the use of the public, and that they couldn't do that. And he couldn't, in his good conscience, vote for it, and he knew his colleagues couldn't either. And again, I wanted to show you the history of where this issue was discussed. So we were very surprised when in February of 2020, this Miami Today article came out in which this development, which we thought was dead, and that would be using the park, all of a sudden came up. And as you see, a new 62-story development, thousands of units, and somehow, unfortunately, the public never got a chance to see this and go and comment it, because as you'll see in the next slide there, the deal was already pretty much done with our city without public input. We followed up on it immediately. As soon as we saw the article, as I tell folks, BHA was partly started, in fact, because of Southside Park, because our founder, Tori Jacobs, and our current president live in the area, use the facilities, use the infrastructure, talk to the residents, know what the usages and the importance of these places are. And back in the 80s, they fought extremely hard to what, and I say this as an employee, but I've had it said to me, we were the saviors of Southside Park. It wouldn't exist if BHA didn't exist. So we were born together. So to hear that we might in any way lose a piece of something that we fought very hard, it created us, obviously it got on our radar. We have since February heard from the developer, a representative of the developer, who has sent us some slides of the intended project and gotten more information about how this slipped through the cracks. Just so you know, we have presented in front of the DDA Urbanism Committee and made very clear that we do not want to lose any piece of our park, not just the park, not even any piece of our park. The only thing we'll settle for is improvement on what's there and what's needed. And we're pursuing this at all avenues because, as you can see, it's not that we don't mind having a better Southside Park with better facilities and better things, but it truly has to be a community project, not a project of a new development that the community gets a little access to, but truly a community park that is open to all of the community. So I'm going to, I know there's been a few others who have been involved in the conversations around this project and bringing it to the light of our public officials and asking for redress. So I'm going to give them an opportunity to say a couple words and Ernesto to say a couple words, but then we need to act because this moved very quickly in the background through the shadows, and we need to move as quickly in the foreground to make it go away. So I'll start off with Ernesto, and then I don't know if Joy, if you would like to say a few words, I'll have you up next.
Well, all I can say from my end is the following. I already started legally to take a path. Unfortunately, lately, that's the only path that we have with the city of Miami. I mean, we the taxpayers, we have been silenced. We have not been involved in the decisions lately, especially the Brickell area. I think that we have been deprived of a lot of things. A lot of backdoor deals that have been made, very unfortunately. But you know what? At the end of the day, I got a message from one role mentor, Mr. Norman Bremen today. And the message is very solid and very clear. Guess what? We are not going to give up. We are not going to give up. That's the bottom line. And if we're going to get through the legal path, we will do it. But we are not going to give up. That's the bottom line.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Joy, did you want to say anything? Oh, there you go. Unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
So all I will add is that, you know, in summary, this is a clear case of the city taking advantage of the community. They are giving away public land, using the excuse that there's a fire station on the land as the reason for why they have the ability to gift this land to the developer. And they are not looking out for the community. They're certainly not looking out for the residents who use this park. And we have brought this issue to the DDA Urbanism Committee on 2 different occasions. We have asked Commissioner Reyes to take leadership on this issue and have gotten nothing in return. And I think that Ernesto is correct. This needs to move to the next level.
Thank you very much. Look, I also, it would not be fair of me if I didn't mention that we have gotten a lot of help from Commissioner Reyes, and I should say Chairman Reyes' office, to find out at a city level how this happened and what we can do in terms of redress. And they have been very forthcoming. They did request, at our request, that the city manager and city attorney send representatives. They unfortunately will not be here with us, but the city has sent representatives from the DREAM, and I know the acronym. I don't know the acronym, so I'll let them tell you. But I need you to know these folks, they represent the city. They did not negotiate what you're seeing here today. They were part of the negotiations, and they'll tell you how they're involved. Again, thank you, Andrew. It's the Department of Real Estate and Asset Management. So I don't want to pile on these folks because they didn't make what we're talking about tonight happen. but maybe they can give us some context around how these conversations even got started and never got to the community level. So I want to introduce to you Andrew Schimmel and Jacqueline Lorenzo, and I'll unmute you guys. Thank you for being here today and joining us.
Good evening.
Sure, no problem. Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Lorenzo with the Department of Real Estate and Asset Management. I wanted to add a little bit to the history of the project. Back in 2017, after the plans with the school board fell through, the city had entered into, well, we went to commission with a development agreement similar to what we have approved today. We went to commission for a public benefits agreement, and it's essentially the same as what we have today, which is a land swap where the developer is building a tax generating development and then contributing. And in this case, they're not going to be taking any part of the park. So the park will continue to be a public park, but they will be contributing $3 million in improvements. What the design of the park is at the moment something that's fluid. It's something that's going to be subject to the city and the city's ultimate decision and with the input of the stakeholders. So I think this is a great opportunity to get everyone, this whole committee's input, especially in the way that we can make it work best for the schools, since Southside is right there. Essentially, what we had back in 2017 has been improved. Now that the rapid transit zone was extended to include the block, the developer was able to, this new developer that we've entered into an agreement with has more capacity to build, and in doing so, more public benefits were contributed as a result. So now we have this great opportunity to really revitalize this park, revitalize potentially the schoolhouse, and create something that the whole community can get behind.
Andrew, did you have anything?
No, I would just like to reiterate the public benefits. So the park will not be reduced in size at all. The conceptual images that the public has seen thus far are just that, they're conceptual. So there still is time for the Brickell neighborhood, the stakeholders, to come together and to make their wishes known to the developer as far as what specific type of improvements they would like to see on the park. And I'd just like to dig or go a little bit deeper with regards to the public benefit related to the park. So the developer is required to spend $3 million on Southside Park. And if he doesn't spend $3 million, if he spends, let's say, $2 million, the difference, that $1 million, will go back into the community in the form of a public benefit for affordable housing or other parks around District 3. So aside from that, there's also $250,000 going into improving Southwest 2nd Avenue. And there's a whole list of other benefits that are coming to the neighborhood. So I understand the public's concern about Southside Park. I'm actually a property owner in Brickell, so I wear two hats. But rest assured that the park is not going to be reduced in size. It's not going to be reduced in terms of access. It will always be a public park that will be maintained by the city. And the Brickell neighborhood gets the benefit of this because the developer will pay to improve the park.
Excellent. I would be remiss if I didn't say that we have some special guests with us. I know from Commissioner Russell's office, we have James Jackson, and I know a few other dignitaries. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Look, here, let's end this conversation here for now. Because I think and thank you, by the way, both Andrew and Jacqueline, for coming, because it does provide some context, as I mentioned to your boss earlier today about, because we didn't have the full history, and we appreciate that. And also, we can only base off the information that we've gotten that we had to hunt for. And that worries us. Anytime that we have to, the political officials who work for us and are supposed to come to us and ask us about what we want, do for us behind our back. So that I think that's the issue that we hope to rectify. And as I say here, it's time for action. And we've said this, by the way, to everyone who we've spoken to. If you need a literal representation, if it takes physical people chaining ourselves to trees, we will not lose our park, whatever it takes. Please spread the word about what you heard today, all of it, because now we have more about what this really is and what the benefit is. It ought to be up to the residents, you all who live there, and will have to deal with the consequences of whatever this is, to talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, and more importantly, talk to the people who work for you and tell them to do right by you. We don't want things done to us. We want things done with us. So please stay engaged and informed. We'll keep you informed on the BHA website, all of our social media. We're going to talk a little bit about the Urban Core Community Coalition, but be prepared to act, because we got to act quickly, because we're just finding out a lot of this stuff, and the train's moved pretty quickly, and it's on the track going pretty fast. So we got to jump on board and slow it down a little bit. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And by the way, I should say that the director of Andrew and Jacqueline's department has offered to come and to talk to BHA and our membership at one of our meetings to really, again, provide context, provide history around why decisions were made and how this went through a different process that might normally have happened. So I look forward, BHA look forward to taking him up on that offer. I want to talk about the matter Brickell, but I want to make sure to bring back the commissioner and Nancy. So let me text them very quickly. All right. Matter Brickell Prep. I know this one you all have been waiting for. All of our board members have been waiting for desperately, along with the progress report on our Southside project. Actually, I was looking it up. The last time we heard about Matter Brickell Prep was in 2018. So it's been almost 2 years. So I'm going to give you a brief background so you remember what the project is and was. And then we'll talk about what we know today and what we're going to know in the future. So Matter Brickell Preparatory Academy, as you see from the diagrams that we got back in 2018, hugging right up against I-95, very close, right there in the heart of Brickell. Again, very excited to have our another schooling option for all those impact fees that we're selling on all these new condos and buildings and apartments. We have a school that will accommodate all those new families. As you remember, this is a K through 12 campus. And it was going to be set up very much and hopefully like a small community college with separate pods and buildings for the different age groups and disciplines, along with underground parking and other traffic amenities that the Matter Group had worked out with both the city and county. And this was being the final representation. And my wife said, oh my goodness, is this a COVID picture that they took of the future building? Because there's nobody on 95. And we know that never, ever happens unless it's the pandemic and stay home orders. So they're very good with Photoshop. But that's our new school. So that's what we knew. Here are the new developments. We know that Matter has taken care of all of their paperwork and permitting work on both the city and the county side. and that they're really ready to put in the application to start building and hopefully put shovels in the ground. There was a warrant application that was recently submitted for an establishment that would be near the school. And so when we heard about it, we actually talked to our commissioner's office to find out about any delays that kind of development or any other development might cause. And it's not causing any problems whatsoever. There shouldn't be any delays. The Matter team has promised to come in the fall and give us an update on where they're at, and hopefully, as I told them, a groundbreaking date so that we can really start celebrating. And then we're going to keep at this and make sure that we get, if not monthly reports, but more reports coming out of all parties in terms of that project, starting with the 2020 Urban Core Education Forum in November. So we know we got 2 projects. They're both pretty far along. At some point, we're going to have shovels in the ground for 2 major new school projects, and we hope to goodness gracious that we don't have to add COVID protocols and brand new ways of doing things in order to educate our kids, but we'll have the best and the top-notch facilities in order to do it. So it's not enough. As Ernesto has said, there are more families going in there. This is a down payment on making sure that we have enough seats at high quality schools for every urban core resident that wants it. Questions, comments, concerns? Raquel? Go for it.
Me. Right, can you hear me?
Yep.
I just wanted to give you guys an idea for those of you that don't remember. Ernesto will remember this because he mentions our dear friend Norman Brayman. Back when we were trying to get a Brickell school and we had that horrible survey by the DDA, thank God for new leadership, yay. One of the things that we were considering was a school that Norman was going to be involved in and that the related group was going to be involved in. And, you know, one of the things that we were talking about was the benefit that a developer would have if they could secure seats in a particular school. Now, at the time, you know, we started the conversation, and again, you would have to get the district involved and the district approval. It was an extension of what I did at Key Biscayne. For those of you that remember Key Biscayne wanted a high school for 38 years. What we did is the village of Key Biscayne gave us the money. We gave them a certain amount of allotted seats, and their contribution was based on those seats. When we did that, it was very controversial, but we promised Key Biscayne that their property values would go up, and they actually doubled from what we originally had told them, because a lot of people, instead of paying for ransom or for something else, just moved to Key Biscayne because they were given a seat at Mass Academy, and the school actually became exponentially better, which no one believed it would because it was already top of the line, because now you had these super engaged neighbors who were showing up every time Mass needed something. So, you know, as you guys move forward with this issue with Southside Park, you may want to consider talking to the district and talking to the developers. You might give up some seats at the new Southside, but in return for giving up those seats, you might get access to the park for the students at Southside. And I would ask you to look at the MOU that we signed with Coral Gables Prep, which had the same problem. And what we did with the park right nearby the prep is the district has the right to use that park during certain hours of the day, and to only use it by a certain number of students. And that way you get an outside PE, right? And you get the use of a park. The city isn't giving the park to the district, and the children that live around the community who have these seats are having, you know, use of the park and also going to the school. So just putting an idea out there, because it might give you access to the park, giving up just a few seats at the new school, since you're already working with the district on the build out.
Love it. I knew you would bring it up. I knew I didn't have to say a thing. And look, I'm the vice chair of Coral Gables' education committee, and I can tell you that MOU, we just talked about it even last year, renewing it and extending it and doing more, offering tennis classes. So there's ways we can partner with our parks department and with the schools to do better by our kids physically.
And listen, I mean, I would tell you guys, this is when I talked about it back then, to relate it, and we've talked about it with several developers when we were trying to figure out a solution to Key Biscayne also, before we decided on the village actually doing it. Look, this is a huge win for developers because the same issues that you all have in your condominiums, right? When a buyer comes in and talks to a realtor is the same issue that a developer is going to have selling a unit. What school is my kid going to go to? Well, that depends. And that answer of that depends, can cost someone a sale because if they have to figure in to their, budget paying for a private school, they might go somewhere else, which is why we saw the flight from Coral Gables to Pinecrest, which is why we saw the flight from Brickell to Pinecrest, from Brickell to the Grove, and we know exactly it's math. It's not that they want to leave the community. They love the community. It doesn't make sense for them, and they want certainty as to where their children are going to go to school. So this might give the developer a few seats, and they can say, for sure, if you get in now and you get in quick, your kid goes to this new bright, clean Southside. Look at how pretty it is. Look at the district rendering, and actually the timing works for you guys because yes, the developer's moving fast, but the school district's also moving. So if you time the two things, you can have the opening of the school right before the opening of the building. So you get brand new condo, brand new school.
Love it.
Myself, but you guys do, I just wanted to give you some options, as you talk to the city and as you talk to the school board, because it would be a shame to have limited access to the park.
No, I thank you, Commissioner. Do you have anything you wanted to say about the Matter project or the schools in general?
No, I mean, as I think you guys know, all of these seats we have to be very creative about, and Nancy from my team has been working behind the scenes to try to find a way where we can fix what developers are paying in and they're thinking they're getting seats, but the way the school board allows that to be means you could be you could be building a school in Aventura. So developers, I don't think that system is fair, but it's a heavy lift to change it. And I think many of you know, I've been working on a project with the 23 acres of government land in downtown around the government center area. Much of it is vacant land or parking lots. And just about as coronavirus hit, we finished our master plan for that area. Several of you in this meeting tonight participated in the public participation section where we basically gave our wish list. If we redevelop these 23 acres of land, which are completely unutilized and wasted, what do we need, right? We need a park. We probably need a community center. We absolutely need a bus terminal in downtown. We can't, we got our buses everywhere. We need school space. And so we do have the very preliminary draft of that master plan, which basically says what goes on what property. Even though I may think the Parks Department's 5-story building is a waste of space when it's near Metro Rail, Brightline, and Tri-Rail, they work in that space, so we can't demolish it till we build them something else. But the idea is that every piece of property has some public good and some private use. So the private use may be housing, but the public use might be a new library, right? So that we can take our old library and our old cultural center, which is a 2-story building that, it looks like an armory. I have no idea why anyone thought that was a good design. And we can begin to reimagine and build a whole new neighborhood. But I can tell you, top of the list of priority for what we have, because as in government, all we have is land. But we do intend in one of these properties to make sure there is space for school expansion. And part of the reason we're doing that as a school board, quite frankly, as many of you know, when I was on the Downtown Neighbors Alliance board, we felt the school board had let us down in making school seats available that were easily available via walking and public transportation, which is what the vibrant nature of these urban core neighborhoods are. So that project is still, it's not quite on track because we were expecting to have our public meetings pretty much around now, and obviously that will probably be delayed another probably month or two. But that's a major project that will involve extra school space. It's not walking distance for Brickell, but it's Metro Mover, trolley, and Metro Rail one stop. So it does give folks options in a car-free way, particularly for high school kids and middle school kids. Like the New World kids, they all ride the train. And those babies need somebody to hold their hands.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Well,
anyway, that's in the works, and as soon as we, we get that out, I'll happily give a presentation on where we're going with that. But that's my goal, is to make some extra school space available on the land that the county has control over.
Excellent. And look, we have a great working relationship with Commissioner Higgins's office, Nancy, and the rest of the crew, as I call them there. They're really outstanding and keep us updated. So just let us know. And we definitely want to spread the word, because, a train ride is better than a 35-mile car ride. We'd like to avoid that. I want to briefly introduce you to Katya Saint-Fleur, who is from the US Census, just to give you an update on what's happened with the census. And again, I hope you all have done the census. If you haven't, it's very easy. You should have done it by now. The floor is yours, Katya. Thank you for being here. Oh, sorry. Let me unmute you. I'm learning. There you go.
There you go. Hi, everyone. How are you doing? I was asked to come on this evening really just to give everybody a quick update and give you guys a heads up on what's next with the Census Bureau and our 2020 census efforts. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for the work that they've been doing, spreading the message, getting the word out. We all know now at this point how important the census is. Just want to continue to encourage all of our condominiums and all of our business owners to keep those signs up, keep promoting the census as much as possible, put signs and signage in your elevators. If you can put anything on your electronic boards, we'd like you to continue to do that, promoting and sending people to my2020census.gov so that they can continue to fill out the questionnaires. The census has been, because of COVID, we've actually had to push back some of our deadlines in terms of stopping non-response follow-up. And non-response follow-up is essentially when we stop promoting as much responding on your own and we actually start going door to door to do that. Now, non-response follow-up is going to start in August, but people will also have the opportunity to continue doing their census on their own, either on the phone or on the website, until October 31st. Now, what's good to remember about October 31st, or important to remember, is that will be the end of when we will allow people to respond themselves. But because it feels like it's far away, we like to tell people, whenever someone asks you, when is the census due? It's due today. We like to push as much urgency as possible, because if we give people the opportunity to lay something aside for tomorrow, they'll never get to it. You know what I mean? So when people ask, I always say, it's due today. Like, we wanted you to do this yesterday. I rarely give people the opportunity to put something aside. Something else that's really important to the Miami DDA is that once we do start doing non-response follow-up, I would like anyone who is in the condo management or who has the relationships with the condo managers to understand that we will have 5 attempts to reach each individual who does not respond. And at the end of that 5th attempt, we will then start asking management and neighbors about these different apartments or condominiums or addresses where no one's answered. So in preparation for that, we would ask that everybody get ready, understand that that's something that's going to happen, maybe start having the conversations with condo managements and whoever works at different shifts at different times, that there will be census takers at some point that are going to come and that are going to ask, hey, what do you know about person who lives in building 12, or in, I guess in condominium 12B or 15C, because we've gone there 5 times, and legally, if no one answers, we have the right to ask you this information so that we can get a complete count. So in preparation for that, we'd ask, I know a lot of times maybe people have to pass things through legal, or you have to go through your board to get that, but if we can get that in order, and to get the word out so that people understand that this is coming, so that there are no roadblocks, that would be a tremendous help. And it would be a tremendous help to Miami DDA as well, because the more people that are counted, the better it is for the entire community. There's no way to ask questions at this point, but I really just want to continue to encourage everybody, keep promoting the census as much as possible, get people to call those numbers if they have questions, get people to go online and do it, and let's start getting ready for the next phase, which is non-response follow-up, where people are going to actually be coming and knocking on doors if no one has answered.
Excellent. I know Elena Bondarenko from the Miami DDA wanted to say a few words also about the census. Elena, the floor is yours.
Hi all, you're having a great evening. What I wanted to note, and I mean, it is very, very important, because we know that our condos and condo boards can be very, very strict, very restrictive. I don't think everyone is fully aware that census has the right, once the self-response period is over, they have the right to come into the management offices and actually request information on who lives in each unit for units that have not responded. And it is very important to go through the process now. If some condo boards have issues, they want to talk to their condo attorneys and make sure that they're okay with it, which they have to be, because this is federal law. Again, the more people we count, the better off we are. There are services that we are not getting the money to fund, especially for the city of Miami. For us right now, it is a huge issue, because once we reach over 500,000 residents, and I know we do have that, and I mean, as long as we can get counted, we'll be able to receive funding for such issues as homelessness services. We wouldn't have to go through the county and the homeless trust. So this is a super important issue, that everyone gets counted, and every condo, and Sam, I hope you guys can help communicate this to your condo members, right? So that they cooperate with the census and they have these information and processes ready so that there are no issues. That's all.
Thank you. And again, we even though our whole membership is not in the DDA catchment area, which we'd like to change, by the way, we do a lot of work with the DDA and support their efforts, because they are on the grassroots, on the ground floor, trying to make our community better. My last plug for the census is parks. As she said, if we get bigger, then we can get more money for infrastructure, for parks, and we can keep our stuff and not have to give it away in order to maintain it. That's my personal opinion, by the way. Let's move on to the third annual Urban Core Forum planning discussion. And I'm going to move through this quickly and take some comments at the end. But again, I wanted to give you some brief history on the education forum. Back in 2015, actually, BHA went and met with our neighboring area associations and also the school district in the city, and really talked about how could we have an annual event that would talk about this important issue of education that affects almost every part of our lives, but yet we don't have an event where everybody that's a stakeholder comes together and is able to talk about the issues and, more importantly, come up with solutions for problems. Thus born the first annual or the inaugural Urban Core Education Forum. We had two of them, one in 2016 and one in 2017. And I think they were among the best events that we did in terms of relating the public, relating to an issue that is important to the public, and providing them a venue to really talk with political officials, everybody who's involved in the arena, one-to-one, to not only talk about what the issues are, but what the solutions are also. As you see here from our second annual event, actually she was just former school board member at the time. Raquel Regalado was a speaker. We also had Vice Mayor Kristen Rosen Gonzalez from Miami Beach, who presented at the event. It really, again, as I said, turned out to be one of the best events, public events that we've done. It went on a hiatus after 2016 because, as you see, every year we went in with goals and expectations, and 2016 was a banner year. We almost fulfilled every goal and expectation that we were interested in getting. And I think that at the time we celebrated so hard, it made us think, oh, we don't need this anymore. Everything is working out fine. As you see here, here's what we intended to get out of the event. And as I said, other than the parts where reviving the city's education committee and getting the city to negotiate or revise their education compact, almost everything else, and also Vizcaya Farm Village, which Alberto Cavallo laughed at us about. Other than those three, everything else got worked out. And not only did we get solutions, but great solutions. And we're still working through some of those solutions, trust, but verify, to see them come through. Here's some of the lessons we learned based off of the surveys we got. As you'll see, school board member Regalado, timely, well presented. She's the bomb. Vice Mayor Gonzalez had great information for us. And as a matter of fact, we turned over all of her information physically to the city of Miami so that they could restructure their education committee. And it was a wonderful guide. Unfortunately, it didn't get used. Her presentation style, unfortunately, didn't click with everybody. We got graded very well in everything, except for the panel discussion and really getting into the meat of the issues. And we hope to fix those things. Some other suggestions we got were to move the date of the event so that we get greater participation from all the stakeholders, and then also to make it more family oriented so that folks could bring their children. There would be childcare there, activities for the family, and then the parents could dig into the hard questions and deal with the issues with the officials. So based off the comments we received, here is what we're looking at for the reboot of the Urban Core Education Forum. And by the way, all of this is just right now very early in conversations. We want to hear from everyone with your ideas on how we can make this better. But we're looking at talking about how do we get to the final products that and wins that we got back in 16. How do we make sure those are reality? And then looking at the future, towards the future. The city of Miami has made some great investments in savings accounts for students who live in the city of Miami, and they've shown that they want to be more involved in the education process as far as it concerns its residents. And so we want to work with them to rebuild their education committee and rebuild the energy for doing this work. Obviously, we want to hear from the superintendent extraordinaire, Mr. Carvalho, about how schools are going and the opening of schools, especially since this would be post the new COVID school year. And so we could kind of get an update of how things are going and then what the future looks like based off what we know at the time. And then doing a town hall panel discussion. And again, getting all the players around the table to answer the tough questions, put out the problems, and then also come up with solutions. And then you'll see down there our breakout session ideas. Look, this year for BHA is about civic engagement and community engagement. And we want to recruit as many people, particularly young people, to get involved in this effort and to really truly become the citizens and the rights that we have as citizens and use them for the betterment of their community. And so we look forward to having all of you, including some others, around the table in November. I hope it will be around an actual table and in a place where we can have an audience. But even if we have to do it virtually, we will. We want to make sure that annually there is an event that focuses on our children, on education, and how we maintain the best in the urban core. Ernesto, any additional?
I think that extremely important, the elections that are going to take place in August. Our district is going to be impacted by two major elections, District 5 and District 7. We need to get engaged. We need to motivate our core to go and vote. They're going to be contentious elections in our district, in those districts that are impacting Brickell. And we need to go and vote. We need to motivate our people. We want to motivate young people to go and vote because we need to get elected the right people in the county, as well in the city. We need to change the political map of the city of Miami. We need true leaders in this city. We have the potential. We have the young people, able and available to serve. And that's what we need. We are tired of seeing recycled faces, that they are not producing, they are not effective, and they are not productive. Let's help the young people in this community to be the future leaders. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget about the census.
Here, you look, Ernesto, you're getting a lot of people clapping and cheering, and you segued right into the next conversation. Look, the BHA has always been at the forefront of how do we get the people, the residents, the stakeholders, the business owners, how do we get all those people who have an interest in the urban core together, organized in a way where we can really make the change that we want to see. And so recently was born the Urban Core Community Coalition. We've been talking about it in theory for years, since 2014, as a matter of fact, when I first met with Ernesto and took on doing advocacy. And as we said at the time, if we were only talking about ourselves, if we were only talking about Brickell, people can dismiss you. The powers that be can dismiss you. But when we're talking about issues that are common across the entire urban core, then there's too many voices to ignore. And there's too many votes, more important, to ignore. So what is the Urban Core Community Coalition? It's a new community advocacy organization. We're going to be running events, doing fundraisers, because we know, yes, we can rally the people and they can hold up signs and they can call and all of these things, but we also know that money is speech, and money is what gets people elected. And so we will be holding fundraisers, and we will be picking candidates, and we will be acting as a political action committee to not only build the future leaders of tomorrow, but also build, the future Martin Luther Kings, the future Dr. Ingrams, the future community advocates that go before those powers that be and say enough is enough. It's time for us for you to deal with us. So how do you help the UCCC? First, spread the word. As you see, our catchment area is from the Rickenbacker Causeway, Key Biscayne, all the way to Midtown. And if somebody in Little Haiti wants to talk to us, if somebody in Morningside wants to talk to us, we'll increase that boundary. It's not about boundaries for us. It's about that we have the same issues and that we get those issues dealt with. Because as Martin Luther King used to say, individually we have very little power, but together as an urban core, can you imagine the power that we bring? As we always say at BHA, Brickell is 72% of the budget for the city of Miami. City of Miami wouldn't exist without Brickell. Imagine if you took the urban core away and took all of our resources away. The county would not exist, and neither would the city. So it's time for the people to really get back in this effort. We're going to be, we'll come to you. We'll make the pitch to your boards, to your residents, wherever you want us to go. We'll be there to talk about how do we get the people involved in this process. And as I say, secure the promise that you all were made. You were made a promise that you would live in this special place where you could live, work, play, and I know it bugs them when I put that last word in, learn together. That's not happening right now the way that it should. We want to make sure that folks know that this needs to get done. Please bear with us. We're just getting started. We're actually still getting our nonprofit status worked out, but we're on all the social media links. We're going to be working with BHA, our parent organization, to get out there in the world, but we want to meet with all of you. We want your ideas. We want your time, your talent, and your treasure. And I know doing that together, we'll get a better urban core, and an urban core where we can all get that promise that we were delivered. Before we end, I want to, Ernesto, did you have anything on that?
No, bottom line, we need to vote. By the way, I want to say hi to Mayor Regalado.
Hello, Mayor Regalado.
I'm missing you, by the way. We are missing you. Read my lips. Read my lips.
Thank you for sharing your girl with us, though. We may have a Regalado back.
So my last word, please register to vote. We need to vote. We have two important elections coming up, District 5 and District 7 of the Dade County. And next year, we need to clean the city of Miami. Take the broom out. We need to clean. We need to change the leadership of the city of Miami for the better. So let's get ready. We are ready for you guys. We're ready for the young people that we have in this community. God bless you and God bless America. And this is the great city of Miami. Thank you so much.
Before we go, I wanted to let Abby Ape, who our Director of Communications, talk to you a little bit about some news and notes, and in particular our calendar, because we do have some important dates coming up. Abby, I know you're there somewhere.
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank everyone who's joining us. After hearing all of the exciting things that are coming to Miami through the BHA, I am super pumped and excited to see our community thrive with the new schools, with the new coalition that's forming, with the elections coming up. It's all very exciting things, and I hope that our community joins in and makes it even greater than what it's already. Also want to point out that we're on social media. We continually update our membership via email. So if you're not on our communications, please email me at info@brickellhomeowners.org. And lastly, just want to share a few things that are coming up. We are hosting a Urban Core Issues Vital Town Hall meeting June 4th. We are also tentatively working on possibly having a drive-through movie theater coming soon to First Miami Presbyterian Church. So we'll keep you posted on all of that. In August, we also are planning a virtual candidates forum. If we cannot meet in person, obviously we're gonna abide by safe guidelines. And another thing to put on your radar, August 11th is Election Day. Moving on, September 17th, BHA virtual membership meeting with an update of legislative agenda updates. Hopefully by then we can continue to get some momentum going when it comes to our community. We know that COVID has taken a lot of time away from us, but we will continue to press on and do our best to make sure that our community's concerns are being heard. Moving on, October 22nd, we also plan a BHA virtual candidates forum to cover national state and local races. We had a candidates forum last fall. It was very successful and it was a great turnout. So we hope we continue that. November 21st, the 2020 Urban Core Education Forum. We look forward to putting that together, whether it's in person or virtually. And again, if you're interested in joining that, please communicate with us at info@brickellhomeowners.org or to Sam or Ernesto. In December 17th, we hope to host our 9th annual holiday party. This event is specifically one of my favorites, and it has a great turnout by the community, and I think that you will continue to love it. And lastly, in the winter of 2021, we will continue hosting the town hall meeting on core issues, hopefully in person, but again, everything is tentative to COVID and how that continues to resume. So thank you for the mic, and thank you for everyone who's attending.
Thank you.
Let me echo with Abby. We really appreciate everybody taking the time to be here with us today. Again, we want to thank Christie House for letting us use their Zoom. So you know, this meeting has been recorded, and we will be providing access to the recording on the BHA website and also the new UCCC website. Again, if you haven't visit the Brickell website and visit the social media access, because we do keep up to date there. And I want to thank all of our officials who came out today and had stayed through the end. Thank you, Victor. Look at you through the very burning in, Nancy and everybody else, and all the other associations. Did you have anything else in closing, Ernesto?
No, Commissioner, you want to say something? Commissioner Alien?
She's waving no. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Please take care and stay safe. We look forward to being with you again soon. Have a great evening.